Cruise passengers lose an estimated $630 million a year on dining mistakes that have nothing to do with bad food. They come from bad decisions made in the first 24 hours on board. You step onto the ship thinking the hardest part of cruising is picking your itinerary. You are wrong. The real damage happens at the dinner table, and almost nobody sees it coming until the bill lands on the last night. After going through hundreds of passenger complaints and talking with 3 former dining room managers, I found that the first meal you eat on this ship quietly decides whether your cruise feels like a 5-star vacation or a 5-day scramble for a table. I am walking you through 12 dining mistakes that are draining money, wasting evenings, and ruining vacations in 2026, counting down from the smallest slip to the single biggest mistake almost every passenger makes on night 1. So stay with me the whole way through. Some of these mistakes are about money, some are about timing, and one of them is a simple mindset shift that changes how the entire week feels. And I promise you have made at least 3 of these without ever realizing it. Before we get into it, if you are the kind of traveler who wants to eat well on this trip without overspending or wasting a single night at sea, hit subscribe right now, because this channel, Senior Cruise Secrets, breaks down the small cruise details that quietly save real money and real time, and turning on notifications means you catch every one of them the moment they go up. Number 12. Treating the dining room like a regular restaurant back home. Here is the mindset mistake that sets the tone for the entire week. A 55-year-old from Charlotte walked into her first formal dinner the same way she would walk into a chain restaurant near her house, rushed, distracted, checking her phone between courses, and treating the meal as something to get through before the show started. By day 3, she realized her table mates were having a completely different cruise, lingering over wine pairings, chatting with the sommelier, actually tasting each course. Her rushed version of dinner had cost her the best part of the ship. The reason this happens is simple. Land-based habits do not disappear just because you crossed an ocean, and cruise lines count on passengers treating an included, unlimited, multi-course dinner exactly like a quick weeknight meal. Here is what you do. Walk in with the mindset that this meal is already paid for and already included in your vacation, so there is no rush, no guilt about ordering 2 appetizers, and no reason to eat fast. Once she made the shift on day 4, she started noticing details she had missed the first 3 nights. The live piano near the entrance, the way the servers introduced each course by name, the small touches that make a cruise dinner feel like an event rather than a pit stop. She even started requesting the same table each night, which meant her server learned her preferences without her having to repeat them. Rule of thumb, on a cruise, the dining room is not a stop, it is the destination. Number 11. Ignoring the dress code. Here is what catches new cruisers off guard almost every single sailing. A 32-year-old from Austin showed up to the main dining room on formal night in shorts and flip-flops, assuming the dress code was more of a suggestion. He was politely turned away at the entrance and sent back to his cabin to change while his friends were already seated and eating. By the time he changed and returned, the kitchen had already fired his table's first course without him. The reason is straightforward. Dress codes on formal and smart casual nights are enforced at the door on most major lines now, not loosely suggested like they were a decade ago. Here is what you do. Check your cruise line's app before you even pack. Note which nights are smart casual and which are formal, and pack at minimum 1 collared shirt and closed-toe shoes for men and 1 dressier outfit for women, even on a budget line. Insider move, keep 1 formal outfit hung up and ready on day 1 because surprise formal nights do happen on shorter sailings. Some ships have also relaxed certain rules for casual nights, allowing collared polos instead of button-downs, so it is worth checking your specific line's current policy rather than assuming last year's rules still apply, since these guidelines get updated for the 2026 season more often than most travelers expect. Number 10. Only eating dinner in the main dining room. Here is the mistake that quietly cuts your cruise experience in half. A 44-year-old from Denver assumed the main dining room was a dinner-only venue, so every breakfast and lunch he defaulted to the buffet without even checking. On the last sea day, another passenger mentioned the calm, sit-down breakfast service in the main dining room, and he realized he had missed it for the entire week. The reason this keeps happening is that cruise lines rarely advertise main dining room breakfast and lunch hours clearly. They are buried in the daily planner in small print. Here is what you do. Check your daily itinerary or app each sea day for main dining room breakfast and lunch hours, which are almost always available on port days and most sea days. Pro tip: main dining room breakfast is dramatically less crowded than the buffet and comes with actual table service, hot coffee refills, and zero tray carrying. On port days especially, the main dining room often finishes serving earlier and more efficiently than the buffet lines, which can actually get you off the ship and onto your excursion faster, not slower, something almost nobody expects going in. Number 9, defaulting to the buffet every single morning. Here is where most passengers give up quality without even realizing it. A 28-year-old from Miami hit the buffet every morning of her cruise because it felt fast and familiar, elbowing through crowds, balancing a tray, and eating standing up half the time. Her cabin mate tried the main dining room breakfast on day 4 and came back raving about the omelet station and the quiet table service. The reason the buffet habit forms so easily is that it feels like the default option, loud, visible, and right off the pool deck. Here is what you do. Alternate mornings between the buffet and the main dining room and save the buffet for days when you are in a genuine hurry to catch an excursion. The magic phrase, "Could I get a table for one this morning?" works every single time and gets you seated in under a minute. She also noticed that portion sizes at the buffet tend to encourage overloading a single plate, while the main dining room lets her order several smaller courses across the meal, which actually left her feeling better by the time she got to the pool deck each afternoon. Rule of thumb: the buffet is for speed. The dining room is for the actual experience you paid for. Number 8, never customizing your order. Here is the trick that almost nobody uses even though every server expects it. A 61-year-old from Phoenix ordered exactly what was printed on the menu every night, assuming that was the only option, while his tablemate swapped sides, doubled up on a favorite appetizer, and asked for sauce on the side without a second thought. By the end of the week, his tablemate had eaten a completely personalized version of the same menu at zero extra cost. The reason most people never customize is that cruise ship menus look fixed and formal, like a printed contract rather than a starting point. Here is what you do. Ask your server for simple swaps: a different side, no sauce, extra vegetables, or a smaller portion if you want to try more courses. Insider move: if 2 entrees both look good, most dining rooms will happily bring you a half portion of each, so you are not forced to choose. This same flexibility usually extends to kids' menus for adults who want a lighter option, and to ordering an extra appetizer or a second entree entirely, since portion control on a cruise is really just a suggestion rather than a rule. Number 7, never asking your server the one question that matters. Here is the question 90% of passengers never think to ask. A 50-year-old from Seattle ordered based on the menu descriptions alone every night and had a fine but forgettable week of meals, while the couple at the next table asked their server one specific question and ate like locals for 7 straight nights. The reason this works is that servers see every single order that goes through that dining room. They know exactly which dish gets requested again and again by returning guests. Here is what you do. Ask your server directly, which dish do guests request the most on this particular sailing, and let that answer guide at least one course every night. Pro tip: servers also know which off-menu classics, like a simple grilled dish or a classic Caesar, are always available even when not printed, so ask before you settle for the printed list. Building a small rapport with the same server across the week also means they start remembering your preferences without prompting, quietly steering you toward dishes they know you will love, based on what you ordered earlier in the cruise. Number 6, skipping personalization on embarkation day. Here is what most passengers never think to do on day 1. A 38-year-old from Chicago boarded, dropped her bags, and went straight to the pool without stopping by the dining room to meet the maitre d', while her sister made a quick 5-minute visit and mentioned it was their anniversary week. Her sister's table was upgraded to a quieter spot near the window, and the staff brought out a small dessert with a candle on the 3rd night, without being asked twice. The reason this small visit matters so much is that maitre d's have real flexibility on day 1 before assignments lock in and the dining room fills up. Here is what you do. Stop by the dining room within the first few hours of boarding, introduce yourself, mention any special occasion, and politely ask about table location options. The magic phrase, "We would love a quieter table if one is available," works far more often than passengers expect. This same quick visit is also the moment to request a specific dining time, a table near a window, or a larger table if you are hoping to be seated with other families or couples your own age, all of which are far easier to arrange before the dining room fills up for the week. Number 5. Paying full price at every specialty restaurant. Here is the money mistake that adds up fast. A 46-year-old from Dallas paid full walk-in price at every specialty restaurant she visited, roughly $210 across the week, without ever checking for a discount. Her tablemate booked the exact same restaurants at lunchtime and on port days, and paid under $90 total for a comparable set of meals. The reason specialty dining discounts exist is that these restaurants are far emptier during lunch hours and on port days, so ships discount heavily to fill seats. Here is what you do. Check your cruise app for lunch pricing and port day specials at specialty restaurants before booking a dinner slot at full price. Pro tip: bundle packages purchased on day 1 are almost always cheaper per meal than booking each specialty restaurant individually as the week goes on. Some lines also quietly discount specialty dining on the first formal night, since most passengers default to the main dining room that evening, leaving the specialty venues emptier and more willing to offer a lower rate to fill seats. Number 4. Waiting until the first dinner to mention dietary needs. Here is the mistake that turns an easy fix into a stressful scramble. A 57-year-old from Orlando has a shellfish allergy and mentioned it for the first time at her table on the first night, forcing the kitchen to scramble for a safe substitute on the spot while the rest of the table waited. A fellow passenger with a gluten restriction had emailed the special needs department 3 weeks before sailing and had a fully customized menu waiting at his seat from the very first course. The reason advance notice matters so much is that cruise kitchens prepare allergy-friendly and dietary meals in a completely separate process that starts well before boarding, not on the fly at the table. Here is what you do. Contact your cruise line's special needs or accessibility department at least 2 weeks before sailing with any allergies, intolerances, or dietary restrictions. Most cruise lines also allow you to preview an allergy-friendly or dietary menu the night before through your server or the app, which means no surprises and no last-minute substitutions at the table in front of everyone else. Rule of thumb: the earlier the kitchen knows, the better the food they can actually prepare for you. Number 3. Underestimating how long dinner actually takes. Here is the scheduling mistake that quietly ruins evening plans. A 35-year-old from Tampa booked an 8 o'clock show right after a 7 o'clock dinner reservation, assuming an hour was plenty, only to still be finishing dessert when the show was starting 2 decks away. The main dining room experience on most ships runs 60 to 90 minutes from the moment you sit down to the final course, especially on formal nights with extra courses. The reason this catches people off guard is that a quick meal at home takes 20 minutes, so passengers apply that same math to a full multi-course dinner without realizing the pacing is completely different. Here is what you do. Build at least a 90-minute buffer between your dinner reservation and any show, excursion meeting, or evening activity you have booked. Insider move: if you are genuinely tight on time, tell your server up front. They can move your courses faster without you having to rush through the meal. Formal nights in particular tend to run longer than casual nights, since kitchens are serving more tables at once with more elaborate courses, so pad your buffer even more on those specific evenings. Number 2. Waiting until you are hungry to decide where to eat. Here is the planning mistake that leads to long lines and missed reservations. A 41-year-old from Houston waited until she was already hungry each evening to open the app and look for a dinner spot. And by then, the best time slots at the popular venues were already booked solid, leaving her standing in a 20-minute line most nights. Her friend booked every dinner reservation for the week through the app on the first sea day, locking in prime time slots before the ship even left port. The reason this matters so much is that reservation slots fill up fast, especially for specialty restaurants and popular main dining room times, and cruise lines release most of that inventory the moment you board. Here is what you do. Open your cruise line's app on day 1 and book every dinner reservation for the entire week in one sitting before hunger ever becomes a factor. Booking early also gives you the flexibility to move or cancel a reservation later in the week if plans change, which is far easier than trying to find an open slot from scratch once the ship is a few days into the sailing. Rule of thumb, plan your meals when you are calm and full, never when you are already hungry and scrambling. Number 1. Assuming everything in the main dining room is already included. Here is the biggest and most common mistake on this entire list, and it catches even experienced cruisers off guard. A 63-year-old from San Diego assumed every single item on the main dining room menu was covered by her cruise fare, so she ordered freely all week, only to find an unexpected charge on her final bill for a premium steak upcharge and a specialty dessert she had ordered without noticing the small icon next to the price. The reason this keeps happening is that most main dining room menus are almost entirely included, but a small handful of premium items, usually marked with a subtle symbol, carry an extra charge, and that symbol is easy to miss under soft dining room lighting. Here is what you do. Glance at the top or bottom of the menu each night for a note explaining any premium item symbols before you order. Pro tip: ask your server directly, is there anything on tonight's menu that carries an extra charge? And they will tell you immediately. No awkwardness involved. This one mistake alone is responsible for more surprise charges than every other item on this list combined. Simply because most passengers assume an included dinner means every single word on that menu is free, and the small print rarely gets a second glance under low dining room lighting. Rule of thumb: if a menu item sounds unusually upscale for a standard dinner menu, it is worth a 30-second check before you order it. Now, knowing these 12 dining mistakes will not matter much if you make one critical mistake at the terminal before you even board this ship. Most travelers heading out on a 2026 sail do not realize that updated boarding rules are tightening ID requirements, luggage restrictions, and check-in timing, and it is costing passengers real time and real money before their vacation even starts. In my next video, I am breaking down the boarding day mistakes that get travelers stuck in the longest lines and, in some cases, denied boarding entirely. A 39-year-old from Nashville used exactly the strategies covered in this video and walked off her last cruise, having never once opened a surprise charge on her final bill, while passengers around her were lining up at guest services to dispute unexpected fees. So if tonight's video helped you plan a smarter, cheaper, and more relaxed week of dining, do 2 things right now. Subscribe to Senior Cruise Secrets so you never miss the next one, and leave a comment telling me which of these 12 mistakes you have made before, because chances are you are not the only one. Save this video before you pack, since half of these tips only work if you act on them in the first few hours on board, not on day 4 when the good tables, the discounts, and the easy fixes are already gone. See you in the next video.